Hi, we're in chapter 37, which was World War II. We're on the we're on the second heading, which is basically the battles of World War II. We're on the third subheading, which is the battles in Asia and the Pacific. So we've been talking previously about the European theater. Now we're going to move into the Pacific theater, the battles happening in the Pacific. And although the United States isn't going to get involved until 1941, FDR is going to know that Japan is going to cause a lot of issues and is going to be very vocal about wanting to quarantine or try to freeze out Japan and everything that they're doing to try to take over parts of Asia. What's going to also happen is the United States is going to cause a couple programs to essentially help the Allies in what's happening with World War II before we were officially involved. One is going to be the cash and carry program, and the other one is going to be the Lend-Lease program, both of which are going to enable Britain, especially, and later the Soviet Union, so on and so forth, to get some really much needed supplies. What's going to happen is as Germany is taking out France, suddenly the French colonies as Germany defeated the Netherlands and France, suddenly the Dutch and French colonies in Asia are now basically up for grabs. And so Japan is more than happy to swoop in and start to take those areas over. As I mentioned before, the United States is going to do what they can to try to slow things. And so one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to try to force an oil embargo to Japan. Again, remember what I said about supplies in the last subheading? If they're hoping to limit the oil supplies, therefore slowing the Japanese war machine. Japan is not going to take kindly to that idea. And eventually what's going to happen is their famous defense minister, Tojo, is going to basically convince Japan that they need to attack the United States, that they have their Pacific Fleet there in Hawaii, and they are ripe for the taking. And so they are going to do the attack of Pearl Harbor, which is a day, 1941, December 7th, a date that will live in infamy, according to FDR. Kind of with my generation, but especially my parents' generation and the one before that, December 7th was like their 9/11. It was a horrendous day in U.S. history as a huge amount of our Navy was taken out. What will happen is that at that point, even though they don't have to, Germany and Italy will declare war officially on the United States. And so that gives basically no reason for the United States not to officially enter the army. So this is going to be met with this attack on Pearl Harbor is going to be met with glee both by Hitler, who's going to think, okay, Japan will be able to secure that. And then Winston Churchill was also relieved now that he feels like that he's going to get some real help from the United States. It's important to note that up to this point, the Germany, Italy, and Japan essentially feel like that they can do no wrong. As I mentioned before, Japan is going to be able to really sweep through all these other colonies that were either British or French or Dutch holdings. And so what's going to end up happening is they're going to attempt to make the Greater East Asia a prosperity sphere. And again, they're trying to pitch it as an idea of Asia finally being able to be independent from the European powers. And when in reality, it's really about building up the Japanese empire as much as possible. Let's also take a look at what is happening in the European theater real quick. So as you can see here, we have Germany and Italy in the center here, and all of that yellow is all the area which is occupied by the Axis, and then the orange are the countries which are forced into being allies of the Axis. So again, basically Great Britain and a bit of the Soviet Union are having to do it alone, and we're about to see the turning point of the war, which I'll talk about in the next heading.